The rejection chamber, the Stellar Confederation's meeting hall, stretched across an entire moon, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of a dozen nearby stars. Representatives from 200 civilizations had gathered in this ancient structure, each species occupying their specially designed environmental chambers. The atmosphere was one of casual superiority, the kind that comes from millennia of unchallenged dominance. Minister Caltheta of the Zeridian Collective adjusted her translucent wings as she floated in her zero-gravity sphere. Her compound eyes, each containing thousands of individual lenses, focused on the holographic display at the chamber's center. The image showed a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in what the locals called the Milky Way galaxy, Earth. The name itself sounded primitive to her sophisticated auditory organs. Beside her, the Chronari delegate, a being composed entirely of living metal, resonated with magnetic pulses that translated into speech. The humans have submitted their application for membership in the Stellar Confederation. The very notion causes my circuits to experience what you organic beings might call amusement. The metallic beings form rippled with silver waves, the chronary equivalent of laughter, from across the vast chamber. Ambassador Yorthok of the Planari Empire stood on his 6 legs, his chitinous armor gleaming under the artificial suns. His species had conquered star systems when Earth's inhabitants were still learning to create fire. "We have reviewed their technology," he announced, his mandibles clicking with each word. "They possess nuclear fission, crude spacecraft powered by chemical reactions, and they have barely touched their own moon. By our standards, they are infants playing with dangerous toys." The chamber filled with various sounds of agreement. The gaseous nebulae whistled through their vapor forms. The silicon-based crystallites chimed in harmonious frequencies. Even the ancient trees of wisdom, beings that had evolved from plant life over billions of years, rustled their leaves in what could only be interpreted as dismissive amusement. Caltheta spread her wings wider, commanding attention. Their biological limitations alone disqualify them from serious consideration. They require constant oxygen intake, consume other life forms for sustenance, and their bodies fail after mere decades. How can such temporary beings contribute to a confederation that plans in terms of millennia? A new voice entered the discussion, deep and resonant like the collision of planets. This was Sovereign Drex of the Voidwalkers, beings who lived in the space between stars and fed on cosmic radiation. "My people have observed these humans for some time. They wage war among themselves over resources that we would consider infinite. They divide themselves by arbitrary genetic variations and geographical boundaries. They cannot even achieve unity on their own world, yet they dare to seek a place among unified galactic civilizations." The Chronary delegate's form shifted into geometric patterns as he processed data. "According to our calculations, humanity is precisely 4,892 standard cycles behind the minimum technological threshold for Confederation membership. Their fastest spacecraft would take them 40,000 of their years to reach the nearest star system. They still believe they might be alone in the universe, despite the obvious evidence to the contrary." Yorthok's compound eyes glowed with a phosphorescent light. "Perhaps we should educate them on their place in the cosmic order. A demonstration of true power might humble their ambitions for a few more millennia." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's communication system activated with urgent priority. The voice that emerged belonged to the Confederation's deep space monitoring station, its tone carrying an unusual edge of concern. "Priority alert to all Confederation members. Long-range sensors have detected massive military movement in Sector 9. The Vorfon Domination is mobilizing their extinction fleet. The atmosphere in the chamber changed instantly. Where there had been casual arrogance, now there was focused attention. The Vorthans were not Confederation members. They were conquerors, destroyers. Civilizations that stood in their way simply ceased to exist. Their extinction fleet had never been deployed without completely annihilating its target. Cal Theta's wings folded tight against her body, an instinctive defensive response. Which direction is the fleet moving? The answer came immediately, and with it, a wave of understanding that rippled through the gathered beings. The extinction fleet is on a direct course for the Sol system. Estimated arrival in 96 standard hours. For a moment, silence dominated the chamber. Then, slowly, the silence transformed into something else entirely. Not fear, not concern, but satisfaction. The trees of wisdom extended their branches in what their species considered applause. The crystallites resonated at frequencies that indicated approval. Even Sovereign Drex's void-touched form pulsed with what could only be described as cruel anticipation. Yorthok was the first to vocalize what they were all thinking. How remarkably convenient. The humans wanted to join our confederation. Instead, they will receive a lesson in the true nature of galactic power. The Vorthans will solve our human problem without us having to lift a tentacle. The Chronori delegate's metallic form rearranged itself into what his species considered an expression of satisfaction. The timing is indeed fortuitous. When word spreads of Earth's fate, no other primitive civilization will dare to approach us for generations. The humans will serve as an example, though not in the way they intended. Cal Theta flew to the center of the chamber, her translucent wings catching the light of the holographic stars. I propose we observe this event in its entirety. We should record every moment of humanity's destruction for our archives. Future species seeking membership will be required to watch what happens when a civilization reaches beyond its grasp. The proposal passed unanimously. Not a single voice spoke in defense of humanity. Not one delegate suggested warning Earth of its impending doom. They had asked to join the galactic community, and now they would learn why that community had standards far beyond their reach. Sovereign Drex's form expanded, filling his section of the chamber with living darkness. The Vorth have never shown mercy. Commander Vexter leads their extinction fleet personally. He has eliminated 17 civilizations, each one more advanced than these humans. Earth will last perhaps minutes once the fleet arrives. As the delegates began to disperse, returning to their ships and worlds to watch the coming spectacle from safe distances, Ambassador Yorthok remained at his position. His species had a saying, "The universe teaches harsh lessons to those who refuse to know their place." The humans were about to receive the harshest lesson of all. The monitoring station continued to transmit updates. The Vorthan fleet was massive. Over 15,000 vessels, each one capable of cracking a moon in half. They carried weapons that could alter the fundamental forces of reality, shields that could withstand the heart of a star, and warriors that had evolved for nothing but conquest over millions of years. Minister Cal Theta paused at the chamber's exit, looking back at the holographic image of Earth still floating in the center of the room. Such a small world, she thought, housing such grand delusions. In 96 hours, it would be nothing but cosmic dust, and the universe would continue as if humanity had never existed at all. She felt no sympathy, no regret. The humans had asked to join them as equals. Now they would learn that in the vast cosmic hierarchy, they were not even worthy of being considered. The last delegate to leave was one who had remained silent throughout the meeting. The ethereal, a being of pure consciousness housed in a containment field, flickered with patterns of light that few could interpret. It had lived for eons, had seen the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations. As it departed, it left behind a single thought in the quantum field. Unheard by the others, they laugh now, but the universe has a peculiar sense of humor about such things. The chamber fell dark, its crystalline walls no longer reflecting starlight, but instead showing the approaching doom. 96 hours until the Vorthan fleet reached Earth. 96 hours until humanity learned its place. 96 hours until the greatest joke in galactic history reached its punchline. None of them suspected that the joke would be on them. The Vorthan Pride Commander Vexter stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, a vessel so massive that it generated its own gravitational field. The ship stretched 40 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull composed of living metal that could repair itself and adapt to any weapon it encountered. Throughout the ship's corridors, 1,000,000 Vorthan warriors prepared for what they expected to be the shortest campaign in their species' long history of conquest. The commander himself was a testament to Vorthan evolution. Standing for meters tall, his body was covered in scales that could deflect energy beams and projectile weapons alike. His forearms ended in claws, capable of tearing through starship hulls, while his mind could process tactical data at speeds that would burn out most organic computers. He had lived for 3,000 years, and in that time he had never known defeat. His second in command, War Marshal Kexvar, approached with fluid grace despite her massive frame. The female of their species were even more dangerous than the males, possessing a natural ability to sense electromagnetic fields and predict enemy movements before they happened. "Commander," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that would rupture human eardrums, "the fleet is assembled and ready for the final jump to the Sol system. Every ship reports full combat readiness." Vexter turned his primary eyes toward her, while his secondary eyes continued monitoring the tactical displays. His species had evolved with 4 eyes, allowing them to track multiple threats simultaneously. "How many ships do we bring to this harvest?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. 15,342 combat vessels, Commander. This includes 800 planet crushers, 2,000 reality warpers, and our full complement of singularity weapons. We also have the Voidmakers, should you decide to not just destroy the system, but remove it from existence entirely. The commander made a sound deep in his throat that served as laughter among his people. Such power to destroy a single primitive world. The Stellar Confederation will think we are using a supernova to light a candle. Some might call it excessive. Kexvar's scales shifted to a pattern that indicated amusement. The Confederation requested that we make an example. They want other primitive species to understand what happens when they reach for the stars before they are ready. Besides, our intelligence suggests these humans have nuclear weapons. We should not underestimate them simply because they are primitive. Vexter moved to the main viewing port, which showed the assembled fleet stretching in every direction. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, evolved and refined over millions of years of warfare. The smallest fighter craft in their fleet could destroy entire human cities. The capital ships could crack continents. Nuclear weapons, he mused. We used such toys when our species was young. Now we harness the power of black holes and twisted space-time itself. Show me these humans we go to educate. The bridges holographic. Projectors created a 3-dimensional image of Earth and its inhabitants. Vexter studied the humans with the same interest a scientist might show toward bacteria. They were bipedal, standing upright on two legs, which seemed terribly inefficient. They had soft skin with no natural armor, no claws, no obvious weapons of any kind. Their faces showed emotions openly, a weakness that would be fatal in any real conflict. "Look at them," Vexter said to his bridge crew. "They are prey animals that somehow learned to use tools. They have no natural defenses, no evolutionary advantages for combat. They survive through cooperation and primitive technology. How such a species survived long enough to achieve space flight is a mystery." War Marshal HFY activated another display showing human military forces. Their weapons are projectile-based, using chemical explosives to launch metal fragments. Their vehicles require fossil fuels for power. Their soldiers wear fabric and ceramic armor that our youngest warriors could tear through without effort. They still fight wars on the surface of planets. Commander, they have no true space navy. The bridge crew made various sounds of disbelief and amusement. The Vorthans had been fighting wars in space for so long that the idea of ground combat seemed almost quaint. Why would anyone fight on a planet's surface when you could simply destroy the planet itself? A junior officer, young by Vorthan standards at only 300 years old, spoke up from his station. "Commander, we are detecting strange readings from our advanced scouts. Several of our reconnaissance drones have stopped transmitting." Vexter's 4 eyes swiveled to focus on the officer. Stopped transmitting? Were they destroyed? The officer's scales shifted to a pattern indicating confusion. "Unknown, Commander. They simply ceased to exist in our sensor network. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. No explosion, signatures, no debris fields, no energy discharges. They just vanished." HFY moved to the sensor station, her claws dancing over the controls with surprising delicacy. "I am seeing similar reports from other scout units. 17 drones have disappeared in the past hour. All of them were approaching human colonies in the outer solar system." The commander considered this information. Perhaps the humans detected them and are attempting to hide, or they have some primitive cloaking technology we have not accounted for. It matters not. Once the main fleet arrives, there will be nowhere for them to hide. He turned to address the entire bridge crew, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive command center. "In 72 hours, we will arrive at Earth. We will give these humans one chance to surrender, as honor demands. When they refuse, as they certainly will, we will demonstrate why the Vorthan domination has never been defeated. We will turn their world to ash, their moon to dust, and their star system into a monument to foolishness." The crew roared their approval, the sound shaking the bridge despite its massive size. These were warriors who had conquered entire star clusters, who had weapons that could unweave the fabric of space itself. The idea that a species that had barely left their own planet could pose any threat was laughable. But as the fleet prepared for its final jump, more reports came in. Scout ships were detecting empty space where human installations should have been. Satellites that had been observable moments before were simply gone. Even debris fields from earlier human space missions seemed to be disappearing. War Marshal HFY brought these anomalies to Vexter's attention again. "Commander, the pattern is consistent. Everything human-made that our scouts approach disappears without trace. No energy signatures, no warp signatures, nothing. It is as if they never existed at all." Vexter's primary eyes narrowed while his secondary eyes continued scanning data. "They are running," he declared. The humans have detected our approach and are evacuating their outer colonies. They pull back to their home world like frightened animals returning to their den. This is not unexpected. Many species try to consolidate their defenses when they see us coming. But Sir, HFY pressed, evacuation would leave debris, energy signatures, some trace of movement. This is different. The objects simply cease to be. The commander's scales rippled in what his species recognized as irritation. You give these primitives too much credit, War Marshal. They have no technology that could achieve what you were suggesting. We have conquered species that manipulated time itself, that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. These humans still burn dead plants for fuel. Whatever trick they are attempting, it will not save them. He ordered the fleet to continue preparation for the jump. Around him, thousands of ships powered up their reality-warping drives, preparing to fold space and emerge in the Sol system. Each ship was crewed by warriors who had trained for combat since birth. Each weapon system had been tested in the destruction of worlds. Each soldier knew that victory was not just expected, but inevitable. Yet the reports continued. A monitoring station near Neptune, gone. A mining operation in the asteroid belt, vanished. Even some of the larger human spacecraft that had been tracked for months simply disappeared from sensors. The pattern was spreading inward toward Earth itself, like reality was being slowly erased from the outer edges of the solar system. A senior science officer, ancient even by Vorthan standards, approached the command platform. Commander, I have analyzed the disappearance pattern. It is not random. It follows a mathematical progression that suggests intention, not evacuation or destruction. Vexter turned all four eyes on the science officer. Explain. The disappearances are occurring in a sphere, expanding from Earth at a consistent rate. Whatever is causing this will reach our current position in approximately 70 hours, just as we arrive in the Sol system. It is as if they are clearing the battlefield. The commander was silent for a moment, considering this information. Then, his throat produced the grinding sound of Vorthan laughter. They clear the battlefield. They remove their own defenses, their own installations. This is not strategy, this is suicide. They make our task even easier. He addressed the entire fleet through the command network. Warriors of the Vorthan domination. Our enemy apparently chooses to meet us with empty space instead of weapons. They remove their own defenses in fear of our approach. This will be the easiest conquest in our history. Prepare for jump. In 70 hours, the human problem will be solved permanently. The fleet responded with enthusiasm, weapons charging, shields raising. Every system preparing for a battle that they expected to last minutes at most. Not one of them considered that the disappearances might be something other than retreat. Not one of them imagined that a species that still used chemical rockets might have developed something that even the Vorthans could not understand. As the eternal conquest prepared for its final jump, Commander Vexter stood at his viewing port, watching the stars blur as space began to fold around them. In his 3,000 years of life, he had never encountered a mystery he could not solve with sufficient firepower. The humans would be no different. They would burn like all the others who had dared to exist in the path of Vorthan expansion. The last thing recorded by the fleet's sensors before the jump was another anomaly. The space around Earth itself seemed to be flickering, as if reality was becoming uncertain. But the readings made no sense, showed no known energy signatures, followed no understood physical laws. The science officer who noticed it decided it must be a sensor malfunction. After all, What could a primitive species possibly do that the mighty Vorthan domination had not seen before? They would have their answer soon enough.